to say I'm Loriana Pauli. I live on the island of Berneray, and I lived on the island the last 15 years. I love it passionately, and I'm very concerned about what happens around. I studied ornithology. My passion are birds, and I will introduce you to a bird today. This bird is a black-throated diver. It is a very shy bird. It's very Scottish. It breeds on very remote lochs. It also breeds in the Uist, but we don't see it often. It is better to see it in winter when he will be on the coasts, and you will see it. I see it quite often on the east beach of Berneray. In America, he is called a loon. That's the name. And Mary Oliver, a very famous American poet who died just a few years ago, she wrote a book, a poem about the loon. Here is a story to break your heart. Are you willing? This winter, the loons came to our harbor and died, one by one, of nothing we could see. A friend told me of one on the shore that lifted its head and opened the elegant beak and cried out in the long, sweet song of its life, which, if you have heard it ever, you know it is a sacred thing, and for which, if you have not heard it, you had better hurry to where they still sing. And believe me, tell no one just where that is. The next morning, this loon, speckled and iridescent, and with a plan to fly home to some hidden lake, was dead on the shore. I tell you this to break your heart, by which I mean only that it break open and never close again to the rest of the world. This is just one example. I could talk about curlews, who are on the list of disappearing species. I could talk about many things. Even sparrows are, even if we have a lot here, they are disappearing. And for me, since child, I loved birds. I studied them, and every loss affects me in a way that is almost a visceral pain. And in the last 5 years here on the island, I have seen quite a decrease in birds I used to see. I drove yesterday to Benbecula all the way. There were a few swans on the lochs, and a few years ago there would be ducks, there would be a lot. It's like the lochs are empty, the maker is empty. I drove to the West Beach Macher this morning. I saw about 5 lapwings. There used to be flocks of lapwing passing. So this is a pain which a famous professor in Australia has given a name to it. This is a new term, Solastalgia, instead of nostalgia. And he was a university professor, but also a psychologist, and he said in his praxis, in the last 7 years in Australia, more and more people came with signs of depression, of distress, and when I asked them what is the reason, more and more is the loss of places they knew. Beautiful places they used to play as children, they would go and visit, and they are destroyed. Maybe it's now just a parking place or so. This pain, and in being old, I start to cry. I have seen so many things disappearing, and it really affects me. Now we are in the Wellbeing group, and for me, one question is, how do I cope with it? How can we cope with it? For me, I have written, for example, a little bit of music about Solastalgia to express my pain. I write poems, but I think it is very important to find a way to express this pain. Art is for me one way which has helped me. Another way is celebration of what still is, every day. So I would say, if you can find every day beauty somewhere and appreciate it, that is a great way to cope with it and keep it. Another way, or another word what comes up with me is the word tenderness. I think we need tenderness towards ourselves in that pain and changes, and towards what we see. So beauty and tenderness, and a way to express. That is really what I want to say.
Thank you.
And